How you doing? We're going to be going over today how to load and clear semi-automatic handguns. I have three handguns here. I've got a Glock 21, I've got a Springfield Range Officer 1911 platform, and I have a 6-hour P229. I'm going to go over each one of those. The technique's basically the same, but there's some variations with safeties and decockers on the Springfield and the 6-hour. I'll start simple. We'll start with the Glock 21 here. Before I go over loading it, let's just quickly review ways to manipulate the slide. You see a lot of people having trouble with this or doing strange things. Basically, there are two ways that I recommend. One is called the GI method. I come over with my support fingertips, the heel of my palm, and I can operate the slide like this, okay? You don't want to baby the slide back when you load the gun. In other words, you don't want to put the magazine in and then let the slide go back gently, because you can cause a stoppage in the gun. The other technique for manipulating the slide is the Israeli technique. Notice that I pancake the gun down on all four fingertips of my left hand here with the drumstick of my thumb on the other side. I can then extend my arms and use the long bones in my arms for leverage. That's a good method for people that have diminished arm and hand strength, or if you're teaching a small kid how to shoot a full-size gun. That works well. My preference is the GI method, okay? So loading the gun, as you know, you can load the semi-automatic handgun when the slide is closed or open. I'll start with the slide closed. I'm going to index the magazine. You'll notice I have my index finger extended along the front of the magazine, the bullet side. Bring the gun up, put the magazine in, run the slide, and now the gun is ready to shoot. Okay, so now we're going to clear it. You'll notice in this series of clearing firearms that when you have a gun that has a detachable magazine, semi-automatic weapon, the technique is pretty much the same across the board. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the magazine. I'm going to hit the magazine release here with my thumb. Out comes the magazine. I'm going to retain that. There's a round in the chamber. I'm going to rack the slide. Out comes the round. Then I'm going to lock the slide to the rear using the slide stop like this, and I'm going to make sure that I visually and physically inspect the chamber. Now I broke that down into 3 simple steps: magazine out, rack the round out of the chamber or dress the firing chamber, and then 3, lock it back and inspect the chamber. You can break it down to 2 steps if you want. Eventually, you can do the locking back and the ejection of the round at the same time. But I made it 3 steps just so you're very clear. All right, so that's the Glock. Now, I go to the Springfield. I'll load this one with the slide lock back. Doesn't have to be, can be forward. Same thing, I'm gonna index the magazine, put it in the magazine well, and then send the slide forward. Now, if I'm going to shoot the gun right away, I can just start shooting. If I'm going to put it in a holster or put it down on the table, I am going to engage the safety lever here, okay? So this is the gun firing. So now we're going to clear this one. So this is a single action only firearm. So I'm going to remove the magazine as usual. I'm going to address the firing chamber. I'm going to pull the slide to the rear. Wait for that round to come out. It came out of the magazine well that time. I'm going to lock the slide to the rear, inspect the chamber again, send the slide forward. For the 1911, I do not want to store the gun with the hammer in the cock position. It just puts pressure on the spring. If you're on a shooting range, by all means, after you've checked the chamber, made sure it's clear, by all means, point the gun and press the trigger. At home, however, I don't like pulling triggers unnecessarily. I'll usually capture the hammer like this and tap the trigger and let the hammer go down, and then the gun is clear. Now, last one we're going to do is the 6-hour P229. Okay. Once again, loading technique is pretty much the same. Index the magazine, put it in the magazine well, send the slide forward. Now, if I want to shoot the gun in single action, I can start shooting right away. If I'm going to holster the gun, certainly, or I want to practice the double action feature, I want to decock the hammer. That's this lever here. And now I have a double action trigger pull on my first shot, single action. Okay, so now I'm going to unload this. Same thing. Step 1, magazine out. Step 2, address the firing chamber. Out comes the round. Step 3, lock it to the rear. And I'm going to inspect the chamber, slide forward. Once again, I've got a hammer that's back. Nice thing about this SIG is I've got the decocking lever here. I'll just decock the hammer safely, and the gun is clear. Okay, so just to summarize, when you're dealing with a semi-automatic weapon with a detachable magazine and you are clearing it, it's very, very important because a lot of people make mistakes here. Step 1, take the magazine out. Step 2, address the firing chamber. Okay, if it's a slide, rack the slide, get the round out of there. If it's a rifle, you want to run the bolt to eject whatever's in the firing chamber. And finally, step 3, you want to do a thorough visual confirmation of that chamber. If it's a handgun, you can do the physical as well with your pinky. This is extremely important, folks. Things do get stuck in chambers. I've seen it happen before. So you want to make absolutely sure you get a good visual on that chamber to make sure it's clear.